how do we get our leads coming in every single day and make sure that they're still coming in to keep the business running? And how do we keep up with the change and everything that comes with it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. I would venture to think if we had done this roundtable 2024, 23, 20 earlier, I'm going to guess leads is always going to be the top of everybody's answer there in terms of what's on your agenda, where have you found, challenges, right? It's a constant. Making sure that the pipeline is full and qualified leads are coming in is really a constant that we all deal with. Carrie, you have anything that you wanted to add to that relative to what you all have been seeing this year from a marketing perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think the budgets are always a challenge, right? I think that that's pretty much across the board, depending, regardless of what's going on. But I would say, our budgets are not declining. Our budgets are pretty much staying flat, and in a lot of areas, they're growing a little bit, which is great. But one of the challenges with that is we're being asked to do more, right? Without a whole lot more budget to do it with. And so, so how do we pick the right channels to do that? And when we do feel like we need more budget, and goes along with what you were saying with the report, which is a great report, by the way, that you guys put out. How do I have the right analytics so that I can go back to the executive team and say, look, I need this money, and here's the value of the investment that I can bring with this money. And so analytics is a big challenge for us. You guys help us a lot when it comes to analytics. There's been a lot of change with the analytics, and now with the AI, what does that mean for analytics? Are we capturing the right things? So I would say, the budget, doing more with your budget, and then showing the value of what it is that you're doing, I think is probably continues to be a big challenge for us.
Yeah, absolutely. We had in that survey, we had over 75% of the respondents directly indicate their largest challenge was data measurement and attribution clarity, right? So clearly that's a major frustration, but also a major need. And so, the more visibility take on that is that we absolutely expect manufacturers to be investing in solutions like this year, because they have to have, you all have to have a single source of truth that's going to stitch together, all the different channels, whether it be search, email, social, maybe CRM data, and your analytics together. And so many marketers that we talk to and interact with are doing heavy duty manual reporting. And talk about, Carrie, like needing to do, more with less or same, and Jacqueline coming from, a leaner organization. Like, that is the last thing you all need to be spending time on, is stitching together from all these different platforms and then crossing your fingers and hoping you've got the right data in place. So we truly believe we're going to see a big investment, people doubling down to actually fix those problems before they then start investing more money in paid advertising or start to worry about visibility in Gen AI. Why do that if you can't justify the dollars that are being spent, or if you're even worse, wasting those dollars because they're not driving qualified leads? So definitely something that will be happening.
Yeah, we have one question that's really related to this, and I know everybody may or may not want to share, specifics of your marketing strategy, but we have a participant right now who's asking about if anybody could share a percentage of opportunities overall, or what kind of range you're getting from true marketing efforts. I think if I'm reading between the lines here, it's between true marketing efforts versus maybe existing customers or kind of existing like sales conversations. So where can you really say, okay, these leads and these sales opportunities are really coming from specific campaigns or marketing efforts, which maybe to the analytics part you could share, from there. And then also, since budgets are leaner, like you shared, Carrie, and anybody is welcome to answer this, but is there any particular investment in your marketing that you've been doubling down on because you've seen it driving the most in terms of pipeline? So I'll just open that to any of you if there's something you could share there.
Okay, I'll take that one. So at Barra, we're a little bit unique. We're one of the leaders in our market segments, the equipment we do sell into the semiconductor, the industry itself. So we also try to expand our products into non-semiconductor government, university, and labs to try to offset that. So our main lead generation is from existing customers, is gathering greater share of the wallet at the customers themselves. So, trying to do that. And so our sales folks are really trying to, develop the business opportunities through the marketing efforts, and like I said, I have a product marketing background, so making sure the products are positioned where we're looking for. But when I look at it, most of the leads that we do come for, the new leads and the new contacts, are coming from the website. It really is coming from the website. The days of going to a trade show, and looking at the budgets for the trade shows, showing up at a trade show and think you're going to get 500 leads or 600 leads, you're not going to get that anymore. So my philosophy is we've changed how we go to trade shows. It's not about generating leads, it's about making sure we have good networking and network contacts for there. And so when I look at it, I probably would say 90% comes from existing and 10% comes from new lead generation, and primary is the website.
Interesting. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Carrie or Jacqueline, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, to contrast that, I was just going to say in the defense industry, it's very much of a relationship-based type of interaction, right? So it is a lot more face-to-face. So in this, trade shows and events are still a heavy part of our budget, and we're not as focused on lead gen as we are branding awareness, right? So our mix is going to be definitely a lot different, right? But regardless of that, even though trade shows is a big investment from a budget perspective, our paid advertising is very important, and we try to do that in a targeted way when we can, which is why paid social is an important platform for us. But also the paid search will continue, and I think this was in the report, Danielle and Christy, was that paid search is still the top kind of driver for for us. It's creating that brand awareness, but where for others it might be the lead gen.
Absolutely. It was about 70, almost 70% indicated that digital advertising is their best source of qualified leads who became customers. And so I think if we know, based on the results and what we're hearing from manufacturers, if they're going to be investing more in paid search and they're going to be exploring into social media, further, that means you better have a laser-like focus and really have that data attribution plan in place, because you've got a lot of competition then that are all doing the same thing. And so that you make sure that you really are doing the best thing possible. And so sorry for that. Looks like I had a little technical difficulties. That wasn't my doing. It's probably Google that's trying to stop me from talking about other channels outside of Google paid advertising, right? So Jacqueline, I think you can probably add an interesting spin in terms of a response to this person's question relative to where you're seeing leads come through, because I know you and I had a conversation recently, and it was very interesting where you were able to kind of stitch together the lead, where that lead generated from, which then turned into, an acquisition for you. And I think that would be really valuable if you wouldn't mind to share kind of, I know you love spending time in analytics and being a math lover by nature and working on that side of the brain, you dig into the data. So maybe you can share a little bit just about like how important using the data is and where you're able to see, some unique lead generation activity coming from.
Sure. So this year we spent a lot of time and effort and investment in tying together our ERP system and our CRM. So we worked with the MoreViz team to make sure that our UTM terms were tying into our CRM. So then when we get our leads come through, we can see exactly where they're coming from and adjust any of the campaigns along the way. So in the past 2 months, we've definitely seen some inquiries come in through ChatGPT, which has been new and exciting, and kind of running operations and marketing and accounting, all different aspects. I love to see when they come in and it works. So I get really excited, and I immediately called the prospect and I talked him through his application and worked with him on a plan for some samples. But then I said, I noticed you came in through ChatGPT. Can you tell me about that experience? So he was very willing to share, and it was great. So he used deep research and he uploaded his drawing, all of his specifications. It's for a medical device. He had some ISO 1345 requirements, some different packaging requirements, clean room, and he gave the agent 2 hours to come up with a list of 10 vendors that could help. So for me, when I heard that, I was like, that it just seems so opposite of what we've been used to for so long of, people want answers in 30 seconds and they want to buy something. So that was really interesting. And then he got a list of 10 different die cutters, and he ended up choosing the one that was physically closest. So we're in Sutton, Massachusetts. He was in Northern Massachusetts, and he said, I called you guys first and you called me back. So that was really interesting to learn about. And so now the challenge is, how do we show up for those people that are searching in ways that are so in depth, instead of just a keyword of rubber gaskets or PTFE vent? They're searching a very extensive paragraph of what they're looking for. So now trying to backtrack through that has been interesting.
To really be able to ask those questions and understand that buyer journey, which, sometimes through analytics, we can make assumptions. We see the journey and then we can make assumptions of what was happening through the journey, but to actually have, and this goes back to, Carrie and John talking about, the connections, and the partnerships, to be able to have those conversations with the buyers certainly helps. And obviously the traditional buyer journey has changed just as things have evolved, as the digital landscape has changed, even just looking over the past 5 years, right? With different social channels, with how Google's physical layout of the search results are there. Now we've got the AI overviews taking a very big portion of the page. But just curious, and maybe John, if you want to jump in on this one, just how have you seen the buyer journey change over the past couple of years, in terms of how they're researching for solutions or vetting providers?
Yeah, definitely. We sell a technical product. So what I've been observing, especially over the last few months, is the search terms that are coming in, that are coming into us that we're tracking out are more specific to just generalized information. So, we sell a vacuum pump. Instead of give me a vacuum pump, manufacturers in the United States are saying, show me a vacuum pump that can do 3 millitorr that is specifically for silicon etch, and so we're seeing that type of more specific, entries into the buyers to look into that. As well as, another product that we're seeing is that I'm really seeing more enhancement into the is we have a product called gas abatement. And I'm seeing more, detailed requirements to meeting, the scope 2 and 3 emission reduction parts of it. So we're seeing definitely, the buyers are being more specific to what they're asking and for the searches.
And I think that really ties into what Jacqueline was talking about in terms of visibility within the generative AI platforms, right? So if you're uploading, a drawing and being super detailed in terms of all of the specifications of the product, or the service that you need, and waiting 2 hours for, the generative AI platform to process that all out to give you exactly what you're looking for. I mean, it doesn't get too much more qualified than that in terms of the lead that's going to be delivered to you. But, John, to that point, you certainly need content then that is going to be speaking directly to what they are looking for. And I think that is going to be one of the more important things that we all focus on as we head into 2026. Now, if you follow me at all, in terms of LinkedIn or in terms of the more visibility, social channels, we've been saying content is king or queen for a couple of years now, because obviously that's how traditional search engine optimization works, right? A lot of that content, though, sits on your website. What's really now going to become more important for the Gen AI visibility, and would actually be equally important, John, to your point about, getting more specific in terms of the search queries or how they're asking to find really you and your products, is going to be offline content. And this is something that has become a bigger focus, and we saw from the survey, social media is going to be a heavy influence in 2026. So, Carrie, you talked a little bit before about paid social, but just maybe generally speaking around social media, organic content or paid advertising, what role does social media really play in your marketing strategy and in your advertising campaigns right now?
Yeah, it's social media is a big part of what we do, mostly from an organic perspective. So, we use whatever channels are available to us. So we currently use LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube, which isn't really a social media platform anymore, right? It's more of a search engine platform. And so we've really been focusing on that this past year, really, because you said content is king or queen. Well, that means video content is really king or queen, right? Because of how Google rates video content. So it's very important for us. We try to use the channels differently depending on the message that we're getting across. But what we found, and I will say LinkedIn is our most popular platform for Leonardo DRS. So we do a lot on there, and that's where we do a lot of paid as well. Paid social is great because we can really target location and function, even down to where a person might work. So social media is very important, and we need to do more with paid. And you can really show, back to analytics, you can really show the value of that as well.
Research, experimentation. I'm a LinkedIn fan. I've been a LinkedIn fan forever, right? And More Visibility was one of the first 10 in the world to have a company page, because so many of the individuals on our team were really, really active on LinkedIn. And so they approached us, and that was super cool. And when advertising came out in LinkedIn, we jumped on it and took advantage of it for all of our B2B clients, and really see tremendous value. But I will share that it is becoming harder and harder to get reach with organic social content. It's just, we are